A few years ago, I attended a 2-day meeting at Cambridge University. A group of us, including engineers, psychologists, theologians, were gathered together to grapple with a thorny question. In the era of climate change and massive population increase, how do we reduce the environmental impact of producing and consuming materials? The closing remarks of the meeting were pithy. Yes, technology is good at reducing environmental impact, but it has very real limits, and we're up against them now. Yet somehow a dream exists that there's a techno fix that's somehow going to save us all. Yet the real answer is that less is the only way forward, less stuff. There aren't any other alternatives. We live in a consumerization as much as a civilization, and perhaps no part of contemporary life reflects this as much as the fashion sector. The clothes that we wear and buy are imbued with the language of the consumer society. It seems normal that we take part in fashion primarily by shopping for new goods, and lots of them. It's usual that those same things look outdated in a few months. It's also normal to discard rather than repair. Indeed, buying new clothes and getting rid of existing ones has become an established part of modern living. We tell ourselves a story in which progress is synonymous with economic growth, with buying more, with shopping, including for new clothes. A recurring theme within this story, of course, is the ideology of more and cheaper. In the first decade of the 21st century, the cost of clothes in the European Union fell by a whopping 1/4. And in that same period, in the UK, we bought 1/5 more clothes. This comes at a cost. Today, it's estimated that 20% of the environmental impact or the industrial water pollution impact associated with clothing comes from textile dyeing and finishing. And over the last 20 years, there's been a massive amount of work that's gone on to reduce the environmental impact of our clothes. And this has led to important and real change. And yet, and there is a yet, in that same period, we have bought more stuff. Attempts to lessen the impact of the fashion sector have been completely outrun by the fact that there are now more garments in circulation. Things are getting worse, not better. This isn't a challenge that we can fix by fine-tuning the offer of the fashion industry as we know it. It's not a challenge that we can fix by more shopping. It's a challenge that has different roots, with roots in the underlying structures of the way that the fashion industry, its goals, its rules, its activities are set up, in roots that we can choose to change. This may sound abstract, tricky, perhaps even futile, like it's nothing to do with me, but it is. It's to do with all of us who wear clothes. So that means everyone, perhaps bar the naturists. And some of us might already be doing it. I call it the craft of use. For more than 5 years, I gathered almost 500 stories from members of the public in 3 continents about a wide range of activity associated with clothes that's not confined to the idea of fashion only as shopping. I was interested in a widespread, though little discussed, skills, stories, tools, activities, techniques associated with using clothes, with maintaining them and wearing them over time. I was interested in them because using things is not dependent on producing and consuming more, because using things is a possible route to less. The process of gathering the stories was really simple. We set up a community photo shoot, often in a community hall, and then just advertised it widely. Social media, ads in newsagents' windows, and then we waited. This piece was shot in Melbourne, Australia. It's a garment that can be worn in a number of different ways, but its owner realized that it was only after having worn the piece for a couple of years that the true versatility of the item was revealed to her. In order to realize the potential of the things we already have, we first have to wear them, we have to get to know them, and we have to do this over and again. And this piece was recorded just around the corner from here in Macclesfield in the north of England. It's a guy in his 80s who brought along what he described as a 3-stage jacket. It started life as a waistcoat. It had been given to him 40 years before. And when he put on a bit of weight and couldn't fasten it up the front anymore, he took out a pair of scissors and slit it up the back. He knitted a panel in cream and brown wool and then stitched it into the back centre line of the waistcoat. A few years later, he decided that the piece needed some sleeves, a waistband, a collar, and then he put on a bit more weight. And so he added leatherette latchets across the front and finished each one with a sequin. The skills to open up a garment and adjust it to fit contribute to a rich and confident society. They remind us about ingenuity and resourceful possibility. They help replace consumption with action. Yet the skills of use are hidden from view. They're never discussed or celebrated, especially not by the fashion industry that lavishes attention on what happens up to the point of purchase, tempting us to buy, but never beyond it. Yet, using things in an ongoing fashion can help satisfy many of the same needs we try to meet when we buy new goods. To use and use again is to offer a vision for fashion, not only tied to consumerism. This piece was brought to a photo shoot in London. It was an old purchase and not from an ethical brand. And the guy who brought it along, who had been wearing it for 30 years, felt like by wearing it for so long, he'd changed the ethics of the piece, altered the values of the brand. He did this not by cracking open his sewing kit and setting to with needle and thread. He did it by just changing his way of thinking about the things that he already had. And this was also recorded in London. This woman in her 80s was brought along this dress that she'd been given 50 years before, just before she went on holiday to the south of France. It was handed to her by her neighbour over the fence. And this is her 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters who competitively wear the dress. They wear it for family parties, holidays, occasions, and they call each other and say, "Who's got the dress?" Sharing clothes saves resources if it means fewer pieces are bought. It also can meet the need for novelty without an ever-expanding wardrobe. Things need tending and using no less than buying and creating. Paying attention to use isn't some sort of ineffectual alternative thing to do, but it's about how we might dress, how we might live in uncertain times with optimism, lightness, and principle. Usership, as distinct to ownership, trades in the currencies of time, community, imagination, friendship, and not just more consumption. It draws on the well-established practices of thrift, of care for others, of the gift economy. It stretches resources, making them go further, appreciating them in greater detail, infusing them with human warmth and memory, folding them into others' lives. Ongoing use, including of our clothes, is an affront to consumer culture. It's a slur on throwaway society. It's fashion in a space where we choose to want what we have. This casts us as practitioners, as craftswomen and men of use. We're fashion practitioners not because we're designing a new collection, but because we're using what we already have with dedication and passion. To use is to act, to forge a more engaged future of our own choosing. To paraphrase the Nobel Prize-winning economist Amartya Sen, it's not what you've got, it's how you use it that counts.